What is going on, everyone? As I'm sure many of you know by now, I play mainly MMORPGs, as I enjoy the sense of community that they give, along with the ability to power up your character, whether it's through levels or gear or whatever it is. I love being immersed in a game that feels like you actually have an impact or an influence on some sort of outcome. MMORPGs have been around for quite a while now, and of course, throughout the years, we see some of them stay in development for rather a long time, while others, well, they face a few struggles on the way. Haven't you ever wondered which MMORPGs have lasted the longest, and which ones were able to sustain a community longer than others? I decided to spotlight a couple of MMORPGs that have been living, so to say, for the longest, and no, unfortunately, yet fortunately for us, World of Warcraft is not on this list, and these MMOs were actually released back in the 90s. That means that these MMORPGs have definitely gathered a couple of cobwebs on the way. Nonetheless, I'm curious if any of you guys have ever played or heard of any of these games throughout your time gaming. And now, with that being said, here are 5 MMORPGs with a few honorable mentions towards the end that have been living the longest. With number 5, we are looking at Tibia. Released back in 1997 and currently still receiving updates to the game, Tibia was a pretty popular MMO when it released, but as it's pretty known, the numbers started to die down in the early to mid 2000s, where in 2007, the game was estimated to have over 64,000 players. But unfortunately, as of December 1st of 2010, the amount of players haven't surpassed 50,000. Now, the game was pretty popular in smaller towns throughout Australia, New Zealand, and across Europe because of its lower bandwidth requirements than other games at the time. It actually maintained a good amount of that fanbase for quite some time. Now, sadly, with the new updates to the game, apparently it has driven many of the veteran players away due to the developers trying to make the game more accessible to a larger mass and thus dumbing down the hardcore features of the game. It's funny because I remember seeing an advertisement for this game on a gaming news website back in the day when I played World of Warcraft in vanilla, and oddly enough, I still see advertisements on the side of the YouTube videos for Tibia. It's good to see games like this continue to live on because nobody ever wants to see a community die. Number 4, the Realm Online. It was originally named The Realm and was released back in 1996 for North America, Europe, and the Japan markets. Now, the game had issues with competing against the likes of EverQuest and Ultima Online at the time, as those were the very popular MMORPGs of the late 90s to early 2000s. It had gone through a pretty hectic management phase where it changed developers several times, as well as publishers, due to its lesser popularity to the other MMOs at the time, as I mentioned. Currently, you can try the game with a 7-day free trial, but it is a pay-to-play game. It's pretty crazy that a game like this, that was having problems back in the day with player numbers, is still able to maintain itself. They prided themselves on a beautiful cartoon style that they wanted to be suitable for all ages. And as they say with their game, the time has added to the charm of the game, and the graphics have remained simple yet beautiful. Now, it's definitely a dated MMO, but it has sustained a community for a very long time. Number 3, Nexus, the Kingdom of the Winds. Development for the Korean version called Baram was started in 1994 with a release in 1996, and eventually the North American version, which is called Nexus, was released in 1998. The game's geographical layout is similar to the 3 kingdoms of Korea and was loosely based on Korean mythology at the time, along with a series of graphic novels. Now, the game tried to set itself apart with its 2D tile graphics, heavy player involvement, a rather central storyline, and its manhwa-like style of art, which are Korean comics. Actually, they're usually specified as South Korean cartoons. And in 1999, it actually set a record of having 12,263 players in a single world. It's funny to see how popularity of games have grown in time. Nexon's US side broke off and changed its name to Crew Interactive, who are currently publishing the North American version and are currently still running the game. A little fun fact for you guys, Nexon actually pioneered distributed game servers back in 1999 when they had broke that record. It was actually also that Lineage, the popular game that you guys probably know, was based on part of the Nexus server software. With number 2, we have Meridian 59. Although this was the first MMORPG to ever be created back in December 1995, it was shut down for a short time by 3DO back in 2000. It was later re-released in 2002. It was the first MMO, but it did lack many features that other MMOs were releasing, such as no jumping. You would have thought it's very simple. All the puzzles throughout the game had to be accomplished by climbing or falling. Throughout its beta, it did last a few months back in 1995. They were able to attain more than 25,000 people to play the game. It actually ended up beating its major competitor at the time, which was Ultima Online. Although the game lacks some features like I said, it made up for many that were innovative and some that you may see in today's MMOs, such as dynamic guild voting for leadership, customized sigils that you're able to put on character shields, along with guild halls and bulletin boards, a mail system, a political metagame, and expansions that we see in many games today. It was clearly an innovative game, being the first of its genre, and it was kind of funny to see that I didn't even know what genre it was. I believe they called it an MMORPG at the time. I'm curious to see if any of you guys played this game back in the day. And with our number 1, we have Furcadia. It was released in December of 1996 with a heavy focus on user-created content, socializing, and free-form role-playing. It currently holds the Guinness World Record for the longest continuously running social MMORPG, and it was last reported that in 2008, the game actually had over 60,000 players still playing the game. Obviously, since then it has decreased, but it is still running. The game is set in a fantasy world that is inhabited by anthropomorphic creatures in which the avatars or the players are called furries, in which you are able to choose between a male, a female, and unspecified. Yeah. In 2012, it launched a Kickstarter campaign to help fund a renovation of the entire game. It was successful, and it did raise more than $100,000 for it. This one was obviously a little bit more of a niche, but it definitely found a nice spot in the MMO community. Time to give a couple of MMOs some honorable mentions, kicking it off with Ultima Online. Richard Garriott first coined the term MMORPG that we know now while he was creating Ultima Online back in 1997. Next up, we have Lineage. While the American server shut down back in 2011, it is still one of the largest MMOs in Korea, and from its release in 1998 to 2013, NCSoft has accumulated over $1.8 billion from Lineage. And last but not least, we have EverQuest. Released in 1999, it was the second commercially viable MMORPG to be released, first being Ultima Online. This game has received many awards, and it has been very influential in the history of all MMORPGs. Alright, that's gonna do it for me, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I would love to know if you guys have ever played any of these games, heard of them. I'm sure you've heard a good amount of them, but I'm curious if you have ever played any of them. And as always, that's gonna do it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Always help spread the word, help support, and I'll see you guys in the next one.